Mr Balls, who was brought up in Norfolk, will join other candidates, David and Ed Miliband. He made the announcement in Nottinghamshire today.
I'm going to put my name in for the Labour Party leadership. I think it's a really important election for our party, but also for the country. And I think it's really important that we don't just talk to ourselves. We've got to go out and hear what the public say. There'll be time for speeches from people like me in due course, but I want to start by saying, let us hear what the voters have said to us in this election.
There you go, Ed Balls, right next tonight. The mother and son from Essex who are vowing to stay in their home despite it being up for auction.
Yes, Melissa Marcos and her son Nicholas are set to lose their home in Leigh-on-Sea after a bitter 11-year battle over a strip of land. But they say the only way they'll leave is if they're dragged out. Lorna Ramsey has the report.
For more than 30 years, Nicholas and his mother have called this place home. But 11 years ago, a legal battle started over this strip of land, which has resulted in their home being sold from underneath them. It's being auctioned a week today, but Nicholas tells me he and his mother have no intention of leaving.
My mother has got no intention of leaving the property unless they drag her out. My mother doesn't feel that she should leave her property. She worked all her life. She never was unemployed. She worked well into retirement and all her holiday to buy this house.
And this is where it all started. Their neighbour, who has since moved, demolished their fence and built a concrete driveway which encroached onto their land by a matter of inches. The court ruled in the Marcoses' favour, but also ruled they'd litigated disproportionately and ordered them to pay their neighbours' costs. Since then, they've appealed more than 30 times, and legal costs have spiralled to more than £30,000. This has all had a terrible effect on Mrs Marcos, seen here 3 years ago. She's now 79 years old. Mrs Marcos still lives at this house, but we've seen her today and she's not well enough to go on camera. It's thought the stress of this whole situation has contributed to her ill health. If the house is sold, it's not clear where she'll live. An auctioneers based in Thorpe Bay will sell the house, and there's a starting price of £80,000. Mr Marcos has told me he has no intention of leaving. How will the auctioneers deal with that?
Well, as far as the auctioneers are concerned, we're there to sell the property on the day. It'll be up to the purchaser to deal with vacant possession in their own way, as they so wish to after completion.
The house may be sold at auction on Wednesday, but it seems whoever buys it will have a fight on their hands before they can move in. Lorna Ramsey, Anglia News, Leigh-on-Sea.
Well, it's 12 minutes past 6 and you are watching Anglia Tonight.
And here's what to come between now and 6:30.
More news now, and a soldier has been reliving the horror of a Taliban roadside bomb attack which killed a colleague from Norfolk. The convoy that Corporal Mark Bowman was travelling in was hit in Afghanistan last July. An inquest heard that despite his injuries, he battled to pull Trooper Philip Lawrence from the wreckage. But the 22-year-old who served with the Light Dragoons at Swanton Morley had died by the time he was freed. The inquest recorded a verdict of unlawful killing.
He absolutely loved being in the army. That was the career that he wanted to do, and he had a good career ahead of him, and he died fighting for his country, and more importantly, he died trying to make a difference.
I wanted 2 questions answered. I wanted to know that he never suffered, and he was never alone, and he was neither one of them, and I'm so grateful as a mum.
A hospital in Norfolk has been ranked among the best in the country by its patients. The Norfolk and Norwich University Hospital came out in the top 20% nationally for its privacy and dignity and overall quality of care. Nearly 500 patients took part in the survey last year for the Care Quality Commission. The hospital says it's delighted with the results but will use the feedback to continue to make improvements.
Now, a group of midwives from Essex have appealed for help after a trip to teach life-saving skills to colleagues in Africa had to be abandoned when an airline ran into financial difficulties. The midwives, all from St John's Hospital in Chelmsford, should have flown to the Ghanaian capital Accra on Saturday, but now they stand to lose thousands of pounds. Tom Barton has more.
Alison Hutchinson should have been unpacking her suitcase in Ghana, not in her bedroom at home. But for her and 4 other midwives from St John's Hospital in Chelmsford, a life-saving trip to teach midwifery skills in the African nation has fallen through. The group were due to fly out on Saturday. Their mission was to teach up-to-date techniques to midwives in Accra to help them to reduce infant mortality.
He's got a very slow heart rate. What did you do next?
But the airline they were flying with has run into financial difficulties and at the last minute cancelled all flights from Gatwick to Ghana.
We arrived at the airport to find out that our flight had been cancelled, and we spent a good few hours at Gatwick trying to sort out if there was anything else we could arrange to get out there, because we've been planning this for a long time. And the midwives out in Ghana, are expecting us, and they've got a programme planned for us, and we've got stuff planned for them.
1, 2, 3.
The members of the group have lost £2,500 of their own money, but they're more concerned that the Ghanaian hospital is missing out on the benefits of this vital trip.
I've been in contact with my colleague Largie and the doctor over there and the matron, and they're utterly devastated, really devastated. But we're just going to have to see what we can salvage out of this mess now.
The midwives hope that something can be done to salvage this trip. In the meantime, they're back at work in Chelmsford, putting their skills to good use nearer home. Tom Barton, Anglia News, Chelmsford.
Let's hope they get some help soon.
Yeah, great shame at that, isn't it?
People living on Mersey Island in Essex are fighting plans to take down and rebuild a pair of oyster sheds that are more than 100 years old.
The owners want to develop these sheds on Mersey Island into a restaurant and say if no action is taken soon, they'll collapse. Some residents believe the buildings should be restored in a way that preserves their history. Victoria Webb takes up the story.
The oyster industry has dominated Mersey Island since the end of the 19th century, and it's still going strong today. Until the 1960s, these sheds were used to store them. Richard Howard's family has been growing oysters in West Mersey for 200 years.
The scene down here, we've got all the old oyster pits along here and the packing shed further off there. It's all just part of Mersey, really.
So the decision to develop this pair of oyster sheds has caused alarm. The owners, the Wheeler family, who live on Mersey Island, want to build a restaurant here, extending the building at the front and adding a new roof.
To see it torn down and replaced by yet another restaurant when we've got so many eateries in the Coast Road, we don't need it. We would much rather keep our heritage together rather than see a new fancy building in its place.
It's the front part of this building that's particularly important to the people here. It was built in 1860 and became the first telegraph office on Mersey Island. The orders for oysters would come in from London here, and then they'd be relayed by flags across to that shed in the distance on Packing Island. The owners say they're just as keen to preserve the history.
Unfortunately, it's very rotten, so we've got to remove everything, but we are going to try and lift certain panels of the building out, particularly the ones fronting Coast Road, complete, and restore them as best we can, so they will be absolutely identical.
But these residents say the site isn't suitable for a restaurant.
The restaurant to be is on a bend, very narrow part of Coast Road, very great highway danger.
The developers say 20 parking spaces will be created in the nearby boatyard during the summer months when there's more traffic. No date has yet been set for the application to go before Colchester Borough Council's planning committee, but both sides agree something must be done or this part of Mersey Island's history will rot away. Victoria Webb, Anglia News, West Mersey.